Okay, we're going to read chapter 6. In the morning, Alice, Mama, and Daddy were looking out the kitchen window. "What's there?" I asked. "Cody," Mama said. Cody was standing at the fence looking down the road where May had disappeared. "He misses May," said Daddy. "I'll go," Mama said. But I touched her arm. "Look," I said. Philip walked down the yard toward Cody. He stopped part way. We could see his lips move. Cody turned around to look at him, and then bounded away from the fence and ran to Philip. They walked together down to the grove of trees and stopped to look out over the fields of cows. "He talks," I said. Philip said something to Cody. "Seems so," said Daddy. "How come he doesn't talk to the rest of us?" I asked. "Maybe he doesn't have anything to say to us," said Alice. "No, Philip has a lot to say," I said. "Lots." My voice sounded loud in the quiet kitchen. No one said anything. "He thinks many things, and those things are trapped inside of him. Maybe something happened that made him afraid to talk," I said. I looked out the window. "Except to Cody," I added softly. "Cody and Philip are friends in some way we don't know about," said Daddy. "And it doesn't have much to do with words." "Cody liked Philip from the very first," said Mama. "You know how Cody sometimes leaves food for a new dog when we take that dog in? It's as if he knows the dog needs more. He's that way with Philip. He's the caretaker." "You think Philip needs more, like a rescue dog?" I asked. "I do," said Mama. "Don't you?" Alice sat down at the table and took out her journal. "Poor Cody. The dogs come and go, and he's always left behind," said Alice. "Maybe that's what Cody and Philip know about each other. They're both left behind," I said. "Hey, with a very nice family," said Daddy. "Don't know that about Philip's family," said Alice. Daddy took the cloth cover off Lena's cage. "What do you think, Lena?" "You can't know," said Lena. "What are you writing, Alice?" asked Daddy. "I'm writing a poem called You Can't Know," said Alice without looking up. Daddy laughed. I looked over Alice's shoulder at what she was writing. "She's telling the truth," I said, surprised. "Alice always tells the truth," said Mama, filling Lena's water dish with clean water, even if it is fiction. Day after day, Cody stood at the fence, looking down the road for May. And day after day, Philip came on his own to stand with Cody, sometimes getting him to play and run. "Philip's good with dogs," said Mama. "He should have a dog." "That won't happen," said Alice. "I wonder," said Mama. She took her pineapple angel food cake out of the oven. "Phyllis Croft's coming over for tea today," she said. "I cornered her this morning." She put the cake on a plate and took out teacups. She put a bowl of whipped cream on the table for the cake. She put her rose-colored cloth napkins next to the teacups. "Here?" said Alice. She's coming here?" "Here," said Mama. "And you and Zoe can find something else to do." "She's getting rid of us," I said. "Do you think that is parental abuse?" asked Alice. Mama and I laughed. And then there was a soft knock at the door. Mama opened the door, and Phyllis Croft and Philip and Cody stood there, like 3 guests come to a party. Mrs. Croft pulled back a bit from Cody, who seemed to want to lean on her. "Cody," warned Mama. "Zoe, you and Alice can have some cake and whipped cream with Philip out on the porch. Take Cody with you." "Bye-bye, Cody," said Lena. Mrs. Croft jumped back. "He talks?" she said, her voice shrill and high. "He talks," shrieked Lena, imitating Mrs. Croft's voice very well. "She," said Mama. "Is she mocking me?" said Mrs. Croft. "You can't know," said Lena, as we knew she would. Surprisingly, Mrs. Croft laughed loudly. It was a little hysterical sounding. Lena laughed the same way. "She imitates all of us," said Mama. "It's her way." Philip looked shocked that Mrs. Croft had laughed, as if he'd never heard her laugh before. "All right, children and Cody, you can take your cake and whipped cream out to the porch," said Mama. She poured tea in a flowered cup for Mrs. Croft. We all shuffled out carrying cake, Philip still staring at Mrs. Croft. After a minute, the door opened, and Cody came out too. We sat down on the porch table, Cody close to Philip. We piled whipped cream on our cake. It was quiet as we ate. Yum. I'm not talking, said Alice. Me neither, I said. And Philip won't talk, said Alice. We all grinned, big grins, whipped cream oozing over our lips. Moo, said Alice, like a calf with a mouthful of milk. We laughed and laughed so much that Cody woofed at us, and the sun came out from behind a cloud, creeping across the yard and up the steps to warm our feet. Cody was in the yard, down by the fence, watching over the cows in the meadow when Mrs. Croft came out onto the porch. Thank you again, she said to Mama in the kitchen. Come along, Philip, she chirped. Come along, Philip, chirped Lena in the kitchen. Cody wheeled around when he heard Mrs. Croft's voice. He ran up the yard to the porch. Philip waved goodbye and walked down the steps. Cody nosed Mrs. Croft's hand and startled. She pulled her hand back. But then she reached out and let Cody sniff her. Mrs. Croft looked down at Philip and said something I couldn't hear. Philip smiled at her, but didn't speak. Alice was closer to her than I was. What did she say to Philip? I asked Alice. Alice smiled. She said, "Is that really how I sound?" And that's the end of that chapter.